Frank here, with another exciting reading of Douglas Jerrod. Check out that guy. Doesn't he look fucking crazy? One side's one, and one side's the other. Blue-eyed, green-eyed. You know what I'm saying? Remember, go to Douglas Jerrod and SamsonPWillings.com to get your information on Douglas Jerrod. Where we left off in the blue-eyed section of Douglas Jerrod. Douglas Jerrod Jr.'s wife has been shot, and he has been recommended to go home. So now we will continue in the blue-eyed section, chapter 16, trying to see where I go from here. Without further ado, 64. You have a phone call. One of the orderlies strolled up to Douglas while he looked out to his usual spot outside the facility. He broke his line of sight to the grounds beyond the lifeless white walls and up to the orderly when the orderly stood over him. Who would want to speak with him? He thought before he asked it out loud. Who would want to talk to me? I don't know. He said his name was Fred and he would like to speak to you, or like to speak with you. Really? Douglas excitedly jumped from his chair after the orderly shed light on his question. He stood in front of the orderly as he awaited the orderly to direct him to the phone. What would my boy want to talk about? Never mind. It is always a pleasure to hear from my boy, no matter what it is about, he pondered while the orderly led him to the phone in the main office. You can use the phone in here. Just tell me when you are done. I will be waiting outside the room right here. The orderly pointed Douglas to the phone on the desk. He walked up to the desk and picked up the phone receiver as the orderly stepped out the open door and awaited right outside for the end of his call. He put the receiver up to his ear to begin his phone call with his only son. I hope everything is all right, he pondered before he spoke. Son, how are you? I'm all right, Pops. I just made it back to Grand Isle this morning, and I started to wonder about you, so I called you up. I'm glad that you made it home safely. I would have stayed in Lincoln longer, but I had to get back for work. You can't miss too much work at your new job. Yeah, I know how that is. You started your job with the police, Officer Jerrod. Fred stood inside his house on the other end of the line. As his father asked about the police, he wondered how his old man knew what job he was doing. I didn't have a chance to tell him about my work. After all, he was in the facility before he went into the academy. He curiously thought during the conversation. How did you know I was an officer of the law, Pops? I haven't had a chance to give you the news of that. I have my ways. Okay, whatever you say. Yes, to answer your question, they have me doing little things, traffic tickets and disturbance calls, nothing too exciting. Just stick with it. With time and hard work, you will be running that station. I'm glad that you have so much faith in me. It's not faith if it is true. Okay, but I didn't call to talk about me. I actually called to ask your opinion on something. Fred quickly changed the subject as his reason for giving his dad a ring came back to him. He sorted the thoughts that went through his mind in the dead silence that came over the phone. What is your father going to say? Is he going to approve? Son, are you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. Just had a lot on my mind. I'm trying to figure out if you are some kind of psychic. What is it, boy? Just spit it out. Douglas remarked to his only son. He wondered what could have his boy's tongue-tied to the point of being silent. It must be some big news, maybe a kind of announcement of new life. Pam went to the doctor the other day. She was worried about something that had been taking place over the last week. Wait, don't tell me. You guys are going to have a little one soon. Yes, I think you are psychic of some sort. Well, I must not be a very good one or would have stayed out of Trenton. Anyhow, we were thinking of bumping up the wedding to October 8th. That sounds like a superb date. I should be out by then. Well, Douglas. While Douglas reported on the status of his mental well-being, the orderly stepped into the office. He walked up behind Douglas and tapped Douglas on the shoulder. Douglas turned to address him as he still held the phone to his ear. When Douglas looked up to him, he tapped the face of his wristwatch to signal to wrap up the phone call. Oh, come on. I haven't been on the phone that long. It has been 45 minutes, 64. I already gave you an extra 15. I just found out my son is going to have a kid. Douglas told the servant of the state in hopes that he would allow more time for him. He sat and observed the orderly's face, but the orderly still stood firm on the instruction. He turned away from the man in white to address his son. While he finished up the call, the orderly stood impatiently in the doorway. Son, I gotta go. I heard. You should do as they say. I really want you to be at my wedding. I love you, boy. I love you too. Until next time. Douglas slowly hung up the phone. After the call was ended, he stood up and joined the orderly that awaited him. He walked out of the main office with the orderly in tow. The man in white directed him into the main hall again. By the way, congratulations, the orderly expressed as he took his leave from Douglas's presence. While Douglas took his seat, Eve overheard the comment that the orderly remarked. She strolled up to him. When she reached him through the sea of inmates and she took a seat next to him. What was that all about? What was what all about? The congratulations. Oh, that. He was congratulating me on my son's wife, or soon-to-be wife's pregnancy. After Douglas shed light on Eve's question, she stood up. As she stood next to him, she tapped the back of her hand on the metal chair. She did so to get every soul's attention for the glorious announcement. When the patients of the main hall turned to see what the ruckus was all about, she began to address the crowd. Douglas's son is going to have a child. The prodigal one is going to be born soon. Sit down, Eve. You're going to cause us to be put into lockdown. Douglas pulled on Eve's sleeve to have her sit down, but it was too late. The inhabitants of the facility began to lose control. They all began to cheer and let loose their pent-up energy. The rowdy bunch of crazies took this as an excuse to throw chairs and beat on their fellow peers. While the rowdy activities of the main hall came to a head, all the orderlies of the facility flooded in to regain control of the hall. As the orderlies fought back the chaotic mess, Douglas and Eve sat and watched the live theater unfold in front of them. The crazies jumped over and up against the wave of white scrubs. Then the orderlies that kept a close eye on Douglas snatched him out of his chair he sat in. I told you that I would be watching you, but I didn't do anything. No matter. It is still time for you to go. And that has been chapter 16. Where do I go from here? Of Douglas Jerrod. Remember, Douglas Jerrod and SamsonPWillings.com. All the information on Douglas Jerrod. And if you missed any of my recent videos, go to FJ Invisible at YouTube to subscribe to my channel and do all that crazy noise to get caught up on all the stories and view all the different things that I have done. Thank you and have a good day. I have to stop.